right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming to this last session. Thank you for making it this far, and thank you for choosing me to be their last session. I want to say a special hello, Buck, to Tereziha, who's probably watching from Zagreb, so I wish I could be there, but hello, thank you for watching. So, thank you for coming too. You can do it. Put your backend to it. And I have to start by saying, if there are any Ice Cube fans out there, thank you so much, because you understand the title. So, time is of the essence. We have 30 minutes to get through this entire talk. I want to tell you about a lot of things. I want to tell you about Realm. From the moment that I got this acceptance to showtime, I've given you the thank you, and I have a demo to show you. So, in order for all of that to happen within the span of 30 minutes, and I know it might be hard to see these kinds of signs here, but I'll tell you, I have 30 minutes, and so in order for this to happen, I needed to do some things before the talk. So just to be transparent, I'm letting you know what I have set up in advance. First, I have a MongoDB Atlas cluster that has been deployed. So this is where our data is going to stay, and I'm sure most of you are familiar with MongoDB. This is just the database as a service on the cloud. Next, the client application is mostly built. So if you came here to see me actually build and write React code, this is not this talk, and we don't have time for that. So it is mostly built. It's a task tracker app built with React, Apollo provider, and integrated with Realm. And the Realm app has been connected. But don't worry, I will go over all of these portions with you, all of the relevant information on how to integrate Realm into your app, and we won't be lost, I hope. I know you won't. So, you may be thinking, that's great, but as I've noticed, when I started talking to other speakers yesterday and started talking to other people about what my talk was about, they're like, that sounds interesting, but what's MongoDB Realm? And so I felt like I needed to add these extra slides last night just so we can be all on the same page of what MongoDB Realm is. Because if you've used MongoDB before, or you've only used MongoDB as a document database, you may not be familiar with Realm. So we'll go through that really quickly. So what is MongoDB Realm? Well, to understand it, you need to go through the context of what you're already familiar with. And that is, if my slides would work. First, there's MongoDB Atlas. So you're familiar with MongoDB. This is a document database. You may have used the Community Edition. If you started to learn to code with any of the Mern, Mean, Mevin stacks, the M is the Mongo in there. That's Mongo. And again, MongoDB Atlas is just the cloud infrastructure in this case. This is where all of the scaling benefits come in. If you needed to add full text search into your applications, you get all of the goodness of what you have with MongoDB Atlas through MongoDB Atlas. So Realm comes in with services and APIs, as well as application logic. So Realm actually started as a separate company. If there are any mobile developers out there, Realm might sound familiar to you, and that's because their initial start was in mobile development. They created the Realm database. They had the concept of realms and being able to transform it into native objects. And they also had this really great thing called Realm Sync. So this allows you to be able to have offline first apps where you'd be able to store data locally on your devices. And then when you are connected to some other network, you're able to then sync and create that sync that way. And when MongoDB Realm was acquired by when Realm was acquired by MongoDB, that's where we kind of integrated the two together. So we took advantage of that sync, and if you had a mobile application, if you had a MongoDB backend, you could make use of all of the scaling benefits of MongoDB Atlas and bring them to your devices. And then finally, there are the MongoDB Realm SDKs. So again, there's additional place for you to add your application logic, and this is, of course, where your client application or services will stay. So in terms of translating that looks like a fancy, not really, a very simplistic architecture diagram, but you can think of it as MongoDB Atlas is where you store the data, that's the clusters that you have, and MongoDB Realm is where you have these things. And this is just scratching the surface. This is not comprehensive. This is just what we'll most likely get into today. So there are functions. And as with anyone who has worked with functions, with serverless functions, all of those same considerations still apply. If you just want to run some code and execute it quickly, if you have a quick code snippet, you have some logic you want to run, you don't care about running up servers, you don't care about standing up your own, that's what applies here in functions. And so these are great when you have to update inventory levels for your store, or if you need to record an order in a user's profile, if you need to do something like print out a PDF. Anytime you want to execute some sort of more complex functionality from the client, functions are probably your best bet. And it's the same here in Realm. So triggers are the next part that is available in Realm. And if you've ever worked with SQL, with database triggers, that is exactly where this concept originates from. So if you've ever used a database trigger, it's the same here. When you want to hook into the changes that are occurring on your database, if there's an insert, an update, a delete, and you want to do something when that happens, you use a trigger. Now, in combination with a function, they're extremely powerful because once you see something happening on the database, or in this case in Realm, we have two other kinds of triggers, which we'll talk about in a second. You hook into those changes, you hook into that state change, and then you do something with a function. So that can be perfect for when you need to send an alert when inventory is low. If a user logs in and you want to send them a welcome email or a confirmation email, all of these really typical flows that you see in most apps today, you can achieve it using something like a trigger and a function. Then there are data access rules. So more and more, we have more and more rules, right? And I purposely put this here before authentication because it's similar to authorization, and we all know that's different, right? Authorization asks the question, what am I allowed to do? Whereas authentication says, am I really who I am? Am I really Adrienne Tacke? And the form of authentication I used yesterday was, tell me what your profile picture on Twitter looks like, because that's the only way I know you and can tell if that's really who you are. So data access rules. The really great thing about this is that you can set down to the document level, down to the field level, if you need to be that specific of who can access your data. If you can only allow certain people to write, if you can only allow certain people to read, if you have very specific conditions on when to do those things, those kinds of rules can be set up here in Realm. And the great thing about this is that once you set it once here, any other application that you use that is connected to Realm will take advantage of those rules. And so that's a really, really nice part about having a consistent server-side validation mechanism. And finally, we have authentication. So we've touched on it before. We've seen other forms of authentication. And this basically is helping you to implement that login page, the good old login page that we all see. So we have a lot of built-in authentication providers in Realm, whether that's email or password functionality, or if you want to use any of the OAuth 2.0 methods with Google, with Facebook, with Apple ID, or if you want to use your own, if you want to use a custom JWT token, we have that too. And it's literally, you will see a toggle of on and off of how you want to choose the authentication mechanism you want to use in your application. Whew. That's a lot. So that is Realm. And again, this is only scratching the surface of what is there, but this is what we'll get into today. Finally, at the very top there, where we have our client applications, are all of our SDKs. So most likely, any of the platforms and languages that you may be developing with, we probably have an SDK for that. So you can use Kotlin or Java. If you're an iOS developer, we have a Swift SDK. We have Node.js and React Native SDKs. So if you're compiling to, say, using an Electron app, or you need to work with a Raspberry Pi, or you need to work with JavaScript or TypeScript with web apps, which is what we'll see soon, you can use one of those SDKs. And a really cool thing is we also have a .NET SDK. So if you have to create Windows applications, or you need to even integrate with Unity, which is a really, really cool thing, game development, you can use the .NET SDK as well. And finally, we just very recently introduced a Flutter SDK to all of the developers, mobile developers who've been asking for this for a really, really long time. Flutter is now there, but just a caveat, it is in preview. All right, so that is it for my slides, and now comes the scary part for me. We're going to go to the app, and we're going to talk about it along the way. So let's see. So this is the app. Who's seen a login page before? Raise your hand. Who's implemented a login page before? Who has hated thinking about all the questions that comes up with this page? It looks so simple, but this page asks you to think about a lot of things as a dev. What authentication method do I use? How do I implement password resets? What do I do if users are not there? How do I tell them that it's an incorrect password or it's someone that it's not there, and abide by security rules? There's so many things that you actually have to think about when it comes to this page. And so we'll see here that I got lucky. Somebody created a React app for me. I'm just saying, in this situation, I actually worked on this app. But I'm saying, let's say we had an app where we needed to integrate Realm. So in this login page, we'll see nothing's happening. Luckily, they've handled that state. And if we look at what is happening here, hopefully this is large enough, we will see that we have an authentication error already set. Local user password is unsupported, which this tells us that it is currently not turned on. There's no kind of authentication integrated into this app. So let's go ahead and do that. If I remember how to get out of here. Oops. And this is the trouble with full screen. One second. Oh my God, and I pissed the power. Now you see my... Okay. Oh my gosh, where is it? Okay. Here. It's because it was in a new tab, that's why. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to Realm. And now this is the Realm backend. So to start, we see here we have a task tracker app ID. This is the key that you need to use when you're integrating with your applications. You need this to connect to the Realm application that has been created. And just really quickly, this is the cluster that is tied to our Realm application right now. So right now it's the database is called Tracker, and we have two collections. We have a task collection and a user collection, which will be holding eventually the users that we integrate in here. And so authentication. In order to do this, you'll see here we have a few providers, just as I've mentioned. We have email, password, Facebook, Google. For now, we're going to do email, password, because we don't have a lot of time. And so, like I said, turning it on, that's literally all you have to do. Obviously, the application has this handled in terms of how we register it, but we'll show you that in a second. So I'm going to save this draft. And a really nice thing, if you've done this ever before, is this has a concept of drafts. So if you make any changes to your Realm application, let's say you're in there, you're debugging, or you're working on some new feature, and you make a lot of changes, and you want to make sure that what you're about to deploy is actually what you want to deploy, there's this concept of drafts. And so anytime you save your drafts, it's similar to staging all of your commits before you actually commit them fully. And so you can check out what you are about to deploy live. So you can review the draft and deploy. And you'll see here, this is what I'm about to deploy. I had the auth provider to false. I'm now going to set it, or to true for disabled, and now I'm going to set it to false. So we're going to deploy this. And you don't have to do this either. If you're pretty comfortable with it, I like it as a fail-safe, but you can always turn off all of those drafts, and when you press save, it's going to go straight to production. All right, so the deployment was successful. So now let's see what happens here. So if I now try to log in, now I have validation. Now I know this is an incorrect password. Now auth is actually working. Now it's going to Realm. It's saying, hey, take this email and password and double check. Is this person who they say they are? And this person actually doesn't exist in our database. So instead of just giving it away, being a security flaw, saying you don't exist, we're just giving it back as incorrect password. All right, so now we're going to actually log in. And I already have a demo account created. So, I forgot my password. What was it? Oh, it's I love coffee. That's what my password is. All right, super simple, right? This is my project. You can add tasks. You can manage the project. You can add a user by email, and you can make them a read-only member. So very quickly, and crossing my fingers, let's get some users in here. Go ahead and scan that QR code or go to the link, whichever you prefer. And when you see on the bottom of the login page, you obviously don't exist yet, right? So let's check that out really quick. You'll see the login page, but if you don't have an account, it'll ask you to register one. So simply go to register an account, sign up with any fake email, any password. This is all going to be purged afterward, and it'll give you all a few moments. So while we're waiting for people to do that, I'll show you what is happening when a new user is created. So you'll see here, you'll have a full list of all of the users that you have available. And look, we already have some users. That's great. Let's get some more people in here. And the great thing here is you can keep track. What device are they logging into? What provider data do they have? And at the same time, what we've done here is we've actually integrated a trigger and a function. So the first trigger that we have here is a creation trigger. So remember I told you we had 3 different kinds of triggers? Let's talk about them right now. So the first one, the database trigger, that is, again, similar to databases that we have, database triggers we've done before. So if you want to hook into insert, delete, update, any of those, if you want to do something with that, you can hook into that and you would use the database trigger. In this case, we're using an authentication trigger. And the really neat thing about this is, as you can see, we have 3 different action types that you can hook into that comes to authentication. If a user is created, if a user logs in, or if a user is deleted. So right now in this, when all I've asked you all to register an account and create an account, we're hooking into Realm and hooking into you being registered and creating an account. And the provider we're using is email password because that's what we've turned on. And so what I want to do is do something with that. Specifically, I want to create a new document to store some metadata on what you are and who you are. And the cool thing about this is if you don't want to use our functions, we have the ability to integrate with Amazon Event Bridge triggers as well. So you can use it as an event source in case you want to go out of the Realm ecosystem. All right, so that should be enough time now. Well, we can go through the function too really quick, just if anybody else is there. So we've created the trigger to hook into everybody new users that are being created, and it's calling this function, create new user document. So what's happening here? Here, when this is sent to the function, we are sending the context of the function that is being called. We're sending the context of all the user data that has been registered, and we're simply creating a new user document here. So in order to access our data source, which is the cluster that has already been created, we do it right here. So we set our cluster, and we get it via the services, and then we set our users collection here. And here it's very, very simple. We're using MongoDB query language here to, again, just insert one single document. And in this case, you'll see these 2 lines right here, lines 9 and 10, can read partitions and can write partitions. And in this case, this is how we're kind of implementing that server-side authorization. We're going to be using this when we decide, are you a read-only user or are you not read-only user? All right, so let's go pick a random user here. Oh, all right. Let's debug on the fly. Let's go. Users. Of course. This is what happens. Let's see. Let's connect. Shift speakers. So what we're going to do when we connect to, okay, let's go. When we connect to Internet, we're going to pick a user. And I'm going to set them as a read-only user. All right, so let's make this smaller a bit. Let's see. Who do I trust here to not write some profanity on here? Okay, let's see. We got Tomasz, we got Donnie, we got Gaprov, we have God. Oh my God, God is using my task tracker app. All right, let's do that. This is God at example.com? All right, let's copy that. Because how do I not let God, into my apps? All right, so let's do this. Let's do this. And let's manage my project. So I'm going to add, oh, not you. I think it was, this is God at example.com. And I mean, God can do whatever, so I'm not going to make them a read-only member. So I'm going to add the user. Oh, this user exists. Great. So now I'm going to add a task here, and let's see. I need to eat more strukli because I haven't eaten any at all this entire time that I've been here. And whoever this is, whoever God is, can you add another task here? Because if you log back in, you should, if you refresh, if you don't see my project, you should be able to see my project, and you should be able to add a task here. And the hilarious part about this is that I've been talking about Realm Sync, right? Realm Sync is currently not supported on web, so that's interesting. So we're just going to have to refresh really quick. But I'm hoping this person has added another task here. No? Is God not wanting? Let's check. Let's see if they have actually added something. So let's add a task here. And you'll see here, these are the great thing about being a developer couple. My husband's also a developer. He helped me test this. So you see some of his tasks here. I love him. Let's see. Let's see. Come on, God, add a task. All right, let's find. I'm fine. You are now going to be read only. Let's add somebody else. Let us add, okay, Swix. Let's add Swix. Because I can trust that Swix is going to add something, hopefully. Swix at example dot, whoops. Add user. All right, so let's take God out of here. We don't need that here. All right. So we know that this is the correct email because it has correctly added Swix to my project. If they did not exist in our current application, it would let me know. It would say, this person does not exist in this project. And so, you going to add a task for me? Please, let's see. Done? Well, okay. We'll do this as in progress. Did you? All right, let's see. Watch this be sync not going through. Let us see who, okay, let's copy. Let us debug on the fly here. Watch the talk complete. Be awesome, buy a kettle, that's a good one. Okay, well, let's see. Let us try to add then. Can you see the tasks that I have? Swix, where is Swix? Can you see my eat more strictly on your side? No? Possibly. All right, that's fine. Let us check then what is happening with our function. So when we add a team member, what is happening here? So it's a good view into what is occurring in our team member here. So we're calling the user. We make sure we can't assign yourself to there. We have the project partition. Check if you've assigned this user. I have not. You got it? What? Ah, okay. Making me look bad here, Swix. I hope, because it should be working. So what is happening right now while we wait for that is as I add a new team member, initially the original project is just you can add anybody and they had full total access to your project. So that's nice if you want to share your tasks, but I didn't want people being able to add tasks to my own list. And so I added that read-only checkbox there to create a to add your ID to the can read partition, but not the can write partition. So, moment of truth, let's see. Yes, thank you. Check functions to do learn MongoDB, to do follow Swix. And this is actually complete. Can I complete? Woo. Thank you. And so this was super quick, super high level. Obviously could not get through everything here, but very quickly, these are the functions that you can have with your application. Thank you, I know, I'm so happy that it worked. Triggers. The other thing that we did not get into, final one here, is yes, this should be an environment variable, but this is a demo, so everything flies here, right? So we connect our app to this by connecting our Realm app ID, and we are also importing Realm here. So for the login screen, how we were able to do this is we imported Realm from the Realm Web SDK, and in order to call and handle the login, this is literally the only Realm-related code that you needed. You integrate into Realm's credentials and auth providers, and in this case, yes, fans of email password, woo. So we log in by sending the Realm credentials of email and password. And in the case that we wanted to handle registration, the only Realm-related code here is this. So we have our email password auth. If it's a valid email address, we, instead of sending the handling the login, we go in and register the user. And finally, the last portion that I want to show you here is this is how you actually hook into or call the functions that we created in Realm. So if you take a look here really quickly, and we look at the functions that are on here, you'll see the ones that I wanted to use, the add team member, we have get team members here when we have to load our projects here. And so it's exactly the same. We grab them from the current user.functions context. And in that case, we're able to use it here. So the point is not the app itself. This is how you integrate Realm into your applications, albeit in a very, very swift fashion. The one more thing that I wanted to show you is this create new user document here. So if you look at the settings, there are a bunch of different things that we can do here. In this case, what we want is to log these function arguments whenever this function is called, because we want to be able to debug this on the fly. And the other thing here is that this is private. So you'll see that if you set this as private, you cannot call this from the client. And that's very useful when you have functions that you do not want to expose. You only want to call them from other functions or within your Realm app. Not the client app, the backend app. And with that, because I'm not going to push my luck any further with the demo. Hvala lijepa, Infobip Shift. Thank you so much for coming to this last talk. It was a blast. If you enjoyed the talk, tweet it. If you have a question, come find me in the hallway. And there's more information. Our docs are really, really great to learn more about Realm, a lot more that it has to offer. And you can even go through this tutorial yourself of creating the Realm application, connecting it with GraphQL and the specific mutations, and showing how to kind of mix the functions and triggers to what you need. So thank you. Hvala lijepa.